Cup of Joe with Grampa Dez. Hey, Dames, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you. Thanks for coming on. I got my cup of Joe right here. Actually, Tim Hortons. Do you? I forgot. I didn't even realize I didn't tell you to have a drink. Do you have anything with you?
I actually don't drink coffee of any kind.
Oh, okay.
I'm one of those weird people that just wake up and
Yeah.
start their day.
I wish I was like that. I've been drinking coffee probably since I was like 16. I started working and it was free, and I just got addicted. So
Yeah, my wife gets headaches if she doesn't have coffee. So
yeah,
I don't need those issues in my life.
It's funny because I'll my wife will be home on the weekend sometimes, and I'll be like, oh, I don't feel good, I got an upset stomach or whatever, I got a nasty headache, and she's like, have you had coffee yet? And I'm like, no. Go have some coffee. It's like, go to Tim Hortons, grab a coffee, and it's got to be Tim's, like my first one. I drink like coffee at home the rest of the day, but my first coffee every morning is Tim's. We got one that's like 5 minutes away. So it's nice. And now that I work from home, it's even nicer. So so since I last saw you, now I can't remember. Were you at Double or Nothing? Yeah, you were, right?
I was at the original Double or Nothing.
Yeah.
Vegas,
2019,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, right. Because you were there with my sister. Yeah. Yeah. We won't get into that. She's been on the show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. It's been a while since I've watched anything.
No, that's
I'm
cool.
so behind on everything.
Me too. Well, I mean, I'm probably not as far as I know. When we talked about it before, I mentioned I was behind, and it was like, I think I was like 4 days, and you're like 6 months or something.
I am at 150 podcasts behind because I'm going through the Observer RSS feed, and I skip a lot of stuff. The only thing I listen to is Observer Radio, which I keep up with, and Brian and Vinny show. I've got like literally 150 of those, and Figure Four Dailies and all that.
So but you listen to other stuff too, right?
Yeah. It's just finding the time is very difficult.
Yeah, I know, because I think I know at one point you were subscribing. I don't know if you still are to the Dynamite show. I know you sent me a message when we started doing the show with Jeff, but
when you guys started, but I fell off, man. I can't keep up.
Hey, dude, like you said 150, like, I mean, not just Observer, but I have, if I add up, I have 318 unread podcasts on my feed.
Jeez.
So, but I mean, some of them, I don't know if I'll ever get to them. Some of them I really like the Bob McCowan podcast is, it's a sports one. And he used to do a show called Primetime Sports here in Canada. And it was my favorite show. And I listened to it daily, and I would listen to it as soon as it went up and everything. Then he got fired, or, it was cost cutting. And then he started his own podcast, and I didn't know about it at first. So then when I heard about it, I downloaded, and I'm listening back from the beginning now. And it's just like, I've got so many to go through. And then I still got to keep up with the wrestling, because, it's not my job, but it's kind of a job, and I'm still like, I don't, I mean, how often are you, like, even you listen to the Observer, you're a subscriber and everything, but how often are you like still surprised by stuff? Like sometimes it just was off your radar.
I was surprised by the news today with Cody. I'll tell you that.
Okay, so we're recording this. This will air on Thursday, but we're talking on Wednesday, and so as of Wednesday, you hadn't heard about it.
Well, I knew about it, but I just didn't know. I finally listened to the Meltzer and Garrett show this morning, and I read what Wade Keller had to say, and I'm just trying to take it all in. I'm just surprised about it all. Who saw
no kidding. Well, because it's in my feed. I'll get to it. I try to listen to everything in order, so I haven't even listened to the Dave and Brian show from Monday where they actually brought it up, and then it all broke yesterday morning. And then we're in like a Slack chat, so I was trying to take a nap, and I'm hearing like my thing's just going nuts. Like it just won't stop. And I'm like, okay, somebody died. And then I pick up the thing, and it's like, oh, Cody's left or whatever. And it's like, oh, it's a work. And it's like, no.
That was my first thought. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, like when it first happened, like, whatever, at the end of January or at the end of December, I thought, well, it could be like, he could be leaving. He probably isn't. And then when he won the title and then he lost it, then he did that promo. It's like, okay, he's not leaving. And then Brandy does a promo like 2 weeks ago. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, considering that they were leading to what seemed to be a Paige Van Zant match with
Yeah.
Brandy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected them to leave, but a funny thing, the whole thing with Cody, my wife actually broke the story to me, which almost never happens. Like my wife
Wow.
is so out of the loop.
Yeah.
She doesn't pay attention to anything, and I actually had a really busy day at work yesterday.
Okay.
Which
So you just didn't.
and all of a sudden my wife starts sending me what looks like screenshots, and it's their statements from Instagram.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this?
And you probably first thought it was fake,
Yeah, of course. And
Yeah.
then I go on there and see it's all real, and it's like, well, what is happening?
Yeah. And then I watched NXT last night thinking, maybe he's going to show up, because it's the Dusty. Well, I didn't think so, but it's the Dusty Classic Finals, so you never know. He could present the trophy, and then and then it'd be like, oh, what's Cody doing here? Tune in to Raw on Monday and find out.
I can't imagine them giving away a first appearance of acquired talent on NXT.
I doubt it. Although, I mean, we were speculating in our Slack chat that maybe wouldn't it be funny if Vince gave Cody NXT and just to kind of throw another, jab at Triple H and, like, oh, well, you won the Wednesday Night War, here you go. Here's the developmental. Maybe you can try to beat them now. It'd be interesting.
Well, it's interesting to know what's going to happen, considering he still runs the Nightmare Factory. He still has his hands in all the trainees. That's supposedly
and what about Brandy and her heels thing, right? Like that. I mean,
AEW heels product. Obviously the community outreach is being handled by Amanda Huber now and a couple other folks, but it looks like they're poised to make a move to WWE, and I have a feeling that he's not going to be presented the same way, obviously. I don't think.
Well, so when you say the same way, you mean the same as in AEW or the same as he was before, or possibly even different from either one of those?
Both. I think he'll be presented similarly to how he's being presented now. Differently than how he was, but I don't think they're going to go full bore main event push this guy to
I don't think so.
World title type of thing.
I mean, he could he'll probably get like a cup of coffee with the world title. I mean, a lot of people do, but he's never going to be the guy. Quote unquote.
Right, and I have a feeling that that's honestly the pitch for Brandy. She wants to come back, and everybody gets a run with that belt. Unfortunately, I mean, obviously, with Becky and having a stronghold on that belt for a couple of years now, and all that, whatever. But those belts for the most part do switch around quite a bit. So I have a feeling that Brandy probably will be a SmackDown Women's Champion at some point, and that's enough to satisfy her.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe there's some interesting mixed tags they could do. Edge and Beth, or Seth and Becky, or
everybody always wants to go to the mixed tags with these guys.
My dream one is honestly and this is a Mania, high profile Mania match, is Seth and Triple H, if he could actually wrestle again. Against Cody and Brandy, like that. I mean, to me, that's a money match.
Yeah, it would be, but I keep hearing that Triple H is not in the best shape. So.
I've heard that too. I mean, we may never see him again. In a ring, I'd say there's a real good chance we never see him in the ring, and we may not even see him on camera.
Well, he's going to go into the Hall of Fame at one point.
Sure, yeah. But I mean, as a regular character, authority figure, face of the brand, whatever. I mean, he could, but I mean, as soon as you do that, you kind of almost are supposed to take bumps, right? If you're Vince or Shane, in that role, you're supposed to take bumps. Although I guess Adam Pearce is, he could do that role.
Well, Adam Pearce did take a couple bumps. He got F5 by Lesnar.
Very rare,
Yeah, very rarely though.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that if Triple H has lost a lot of weight, or if he looks significantly different, I can imagine that it's going to be some time before he is on TV, if ever. And it's going to take a while to get back that confidence too. When something like that happens to you, you really question a lot. Unfortunately, that didn't happen to me. many years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you're not the same after that, and so
yeah.
if
You're
he ever does get back
self-taught.
in the ring, man, that'll be kudos to him. But at this point, especially with his age and all that,
Yeah,
it's
he's
probably
over
not worth it.
50 now, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's pivot a bit because I wanted to talk to you about, I'm, we're friends on Facebook, obviously, and I love, I love like when I first got to know you, you weren't even married yet. Then you got married, and then you had kids, and I just love like watching you grow up as a father. And it's funny, and I'm using that term specifically because like you're just your kids are your world, and your wife, obviously. And but I mean, and it's on the same way, but it's different because your kids are younger, and I just love seeing those pictures of JD. And what's your other kid's name?
My daughter's name is Liana,
Leon.
and
I couldn't
and
Leona. I can't. I don't know why I couldn't even remember if it was a boy or girl. So,
it's
but
my
JD,
daughter.
I just feel like I know him.
I feel like my daughter unfortunately was born right when this pandemic started, literally
Yeah.
March
Yeah.
14th, like the
Yep.
day that everything shut down.
Yeah.
So so she's grown up in this whole mess, and
Yeah. That's crazy.
unfortunately because of that, a lot of people haven't had a chance to meet her.
Yeah.
They've only seen things on social media. My son got the whole treatment, birthday parties, the whole deal, and
Yeah.
I felt like my daughter got robbed of so much of that, and I feel so bad about that. But on the flip side, it's weird to me because um, my daughter is now in daycare, and
Wow.
we put her in a center as opposed to my son, which we had put in a home daycare, which is kind of like a one-on-one thing.
Yep. Yep.
And my daughter is so much more advanced than my son was at her age.
Hmm.
I mean, it's like she's lapping him in terms of development at this age. So she's ridiculously smart. And pandemic babies are something else, man. It's
Well, yeah,
crazy.
because they're learning to use an iPad and,
Yeah,
like
yeah. My
JD. I
daughter,
mean, JD's what, 4 or 5?
my son is 4,
So
and
he's
my daughter.
probably could do a Zoom meeting by now.
Well, he knows how to use an iPad.
Yeah.
My daughter is going to be 2 next month, and she sits next to him and uses the Samsung tablet.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
they're both on YouTube Kids, just selecting what they want,
Yeah.
swiping with their fingers. They already know basic
Yeah.
touch screen commands. It's natural. I think that's
It's
just
awesome.
the intuitive motion.
Yeah. Well, my grandson, he comes over, and I mean, as soon as he comes in, he's go heading for the tablet, and
Yeah.
he has that tablet in his hand the whole time he's here. We have to like pry it out of his hand to eat and stuff. So, we so you bring that up because it's funny when our kids. So they're pretty like separated in age. The older two are like almost, well, one is 30, the other one is almost 30, and then we have three that are between like 20 and 23. So the older two, when my wife and I were first together and had kids, like our jobs, like we couldn't afford daycare. So what we did was we separated our hours so that neither one of us, one of us would always be home. So the kids didn't have to go to daycare. And we thought, oh, we're being great parents and stuff. And you know what? That was not good for the kids because they didn't get any social interaction. They
Yeah.
didn't get any learning. We were burnt out because we're either working or we're looking after the kids, which is a full-time job. So it was not good. So then with the older ones or the younger ones, we had better jobs by then, and we could afford daycare, and they went to daycare, and they advanced so much quicker. They, especially socially, but they also like scholastically, they were,
Yeah.
they did better right off the bat. Now then it comes down to how hard do they work, and that's a whole
Right.
other issue, and that depends on the kid. But you give them a head start, I think, by having them in that community environment, interacting with other kids, learning, watching what other kids do, learning from them, as opposed to like a one-on-one. And if you've got a good daycare person, they might work with them and teach them and stuff like that, but most of the time they're just babysitters.
Yeah. Well, honestly, the issue with the home daycare wasn't so much the fact that it was a one-on-one. It really was, excuse me, the pandemic really screwed up a lot of issues
Oh
with
yeah.
daycare,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, a lot of folks had to pull their kids for 6 months, and these daycares, some of them had to close, a
Hmm.
lot of them had to consolidate, or they had to start conforming to these new COVID guidelines, and things were very, very difficult. You pay for a week and you have to have your kid home and still pay because somebody got
Yeah.
exposed to COVID.
Or you lose your spot.
Right. And so, excuse me, it finally got to a point where um, it was best because my son went from being in a room with 6 kids to it was just himself and his sister every day. So at
Oh,
that point,
wow.
at that point we might as well just put them in a real daycare. So
Yeah.
it costs more, but the benefits have definitely
And you
been
can write
there.
it off
So
too, right?
somewhat. I mean, the
Yeah.
tax credits don't really make up for
True.
how much you end up
True.
paying.
Oh,
Daycare
yeah.
is
Yeah.
very costly.
Yeah, we had the same thing because Emily is she's 9 now. She's gonna be 10 this year, but when it started, she was still 7, right? Like so, yeah. And we lost daycare for a little while because the center had to shut down because
Yeah.
they had a bunch of COVID protocols that they were supposed to follow, and they said, well, we can't follow these protocols and run. So then eventually they changed the protocols, and then they were able to reopen, but only to select people. And Emily was luckily one of the first ones that was able to go. So we did that. But yeah, it was for that. There was like a period of maybe 5 months where I was working from home and I was looking after Emily. And when you're trying to work and be a parent, you basically
Yeah.
you screw up at both. Like,
Yeah.
because or you completely ignore the kid to do your job, or you completely ignore your job to look after the kid, or you try to do half and half. And of course, I
Yeah.
tried to do half and half and didn't work. And
Well,
for the first 2 months, I didn't even have a VPN.
oh
So
wow.
I'm like, I've got an automatic forward going from my work email to my home email so I can look at stuff, but then I have to like, oh, it was just insane. I was printing stuff off. I was going in at night to print stuff off, bring it back so I could do work the next day, and finally got me a VPN. And now like the cool thing is like I can probably work from home going forward, like once the pandemic's over, which seems like we're close.
Yeah, in my line of work, I'm an insurance salesman, and I also service my clients, and
Mhm.
it's not easy to work from home. For the first
Yeah.
6 months during the pandemic, I did just because the offices were shut down and stuff. But it was twofold. I was trying to do my job, but my sales took a big hit. Obviously,
Yeah.
nobody really wanted to worry about their car insurance when the pandemic was going on. Um, but the other thing is, I got to spend 6 months at home with my daughter.
Right. At a
While she was
crucial
growing up.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously it was a scary 6 months because this was at the time when nobody knew anything about COVID and people were still,
Yeah.
wearing hazmat suits to go outside and toilet paper was missing everywhere and
And
so
you're in Connecticut, right?
yeah, I am now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there it got hit pretty hard at the beginning, like from, probably like I guess what it would have been like May, June. Like we'd see the pictures on CNN of like, these hospitals and, portable morgues and stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I remember just the chase for toilet paper was a real
Oh
thing.
God. So my wife works at Superstore, which is like the biggest place in Canada for selling groceries. So she had actually just before the pandemic, and she had no idea, but I mean, she always buys them when they're on sale. We had like 3 48 packs of toilet paper that were here, and as soon as the whole shortage was starting, I was like posting pictures of my toilet paper, and it's like I'm rich.
Wow.
And then I remember like maybe 6 months later, we're like walking through, we went to the beach, and this is when they had relaxed restrictions like quite a bit at one point, and there's like a roll of toilet paper just lying on the ground, and I'm like, man, 6 months ago that would have been worth like $1,000.
Yeah, right. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We still have toilet paper stocked from when we stocked up 2 years ago.
I believe it. Yeah, I mean, because you never know, right? Like, I mean, some new
I,
variant comes in, and
I don't put that out there, man. I don't want to go through this again.
well, the thing is now, like, I don't know if you've heard about it down there, but we have the truckers barricading
I
the
heard
borders.
something's going
Yeah,
on.
so it's finally clearing up, but for a while, like, we weren't able to get goods in. And my wife, again, she works at Superstore, and the shelves are empty, and people are yelling at her, and it's like, what am I supposed to
Wow,
do? Like, we can't get the stuff in,
that's
and
crazy.
yeah, and it's not because of COVID, it's because of people,
Yeah.
that are, I don't want to be political, so I'm not going to give my opinion on what they're doing, but yeah, so it's yeah, it's been an interesting 2 years, but hopefully, we'll see each other in person again soon.
I'd like
You know,
to.
yeah.
kind of leading back to wrestling where it
Yeah,
always
yeah,
ends up.
yeah.
I have zero plans on going to WrestleMania this year, which is
Yeah, I'm
the
going.
you are.
I'm hoping to. I shouldn't say I am. I think I will be. It looks like they're reducing the restrictions so that we don't need a PCR test when we come back. That
Okay.
was the reason we weren't going to do it, because it's like $140 a person.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we go, I've got my tickets are taken care of, which is cool. So that's one thing, one less thing to worry about. And it's, it's going to be a big show, but I get why people don't want to go, like I,
Well, I got a number of reasons why I don't want to go. It's
yeah,
been, my last hurrah was going to be WrestleMania 35 because it was in New York. I already
yeah,
had babysitting.
yeah,
Now my kids are older. It's harder to
yeah.
not go somewhere and take them with me because I feel bad that I'm not taking them on
Well,
vacation.
the one time
Um,
I saw you at WrestleMania was just before you had kids, right? It was
yeah,
right
yeah.
before Inez got pregnant.
Kids change everything,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
But yeah, not just that. I don't want to deal with the whole 2 nights thing. That the
yeah,
product is colder than cold with me.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Honestly, I've been watching WWE, WWF for 35 years
Hmm.
religiously.
Yeah.
I watched 95 when I didn't stop
So
wrestling
did I.
and stop watching wrestling. And I get to the point now where there are times where I don't even turn on Raw. I don't even
Hmm.
turn on SmackDown.
I,
If it
I
wasn't for AEW, I don't even know if I would still be keeping up with anything.
I
Um,
totally get it. I mean, I will say that I have been liking Raw better lately, but I mean, there's been times where I felt like giving up, and I have given up a couple times, and then I've kind of been brought back in. And there's a few things I really like right now, but I totally like. I'm not going to argue too hard with anybody that says they don't, because there's so many things. Like I see people that will come on and they say, "Oh, I'm going to give it a shot," and then they watch, and then they just, I don't know how anyone can watch this. Like I will say,
yeah.
there is zero chance I could ever watch one of their shows live. Like, not, I mean, when I say live, like I'm not talking in person. I'm talking like turn on the TV at 8 o'clock and watch Raw. It's
Well,
impossible. I don't know
I've
how
I've
anybody does it. Like,
I've only done that maybe once in the last few months. But the
yeah,
thing is,
because
I actually am a Nielsen household.
okay, well there you
So
go.
I got all the equipment in every room, so they're
Yeah,
tracking me. And the funny thing is, and I don't mean to brag because it's
yeah.
stupid, but every single time I don't watch, the
The
ratings
numbers down.
correlate. The
Yeah.
numbers go
Hey,
down. Yeah,
I got
there's a
got
trend.
another buddy. I mean, we both know Larry, who's a Nielsen home
Oh
too,
yeah,
and he watches a ton of TV. So, and he's a WWE guy, so he probably, he's helping them.
I watch everything that I can these days. But for
Yeah,
the most part, um, a lot, mostly streaming services now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Almost nothing on cable except for our wrestling
Even
products.
network TV shows is easier to watch on streaming because then you don't have the commercials. And you can binge. You can watch a whole season in like 4 days, if you want.
Yeah,
And
it's not.
even the
It's
streaming shows are better in a
yeah.
lot of cases.
And now with my kids, I basically only
Yeah,
have about 2 hours to myself a night, and I have to be very
yeah,
selective on what I
yeah.
spend my time on.
I
So
hear you. I hear you. I would say like so the only times I'll ever watch Raw or SmackDown live is if I'm traveling and I'm in a hotel room, and like I'll turn it on. And so you turn it on and it starts, and you got like 5 minutes of entrances, and then you've got, they do 2 minutes of useless wrestling, and then they go to commercial. So basically you don't really have to start watching the show till like 15 minutes after it starts,
right,
because even unless it's like an opening promo, and I do like the promos for the most part. So if they open with a promo, I'll watch, and then as soon as they're going to a match, I can churn the station for 20 minutes and I can come back to see the end of the match. And so if I'm watching live, and if I'm watching on a PVR and I've got a 3-hour Raw sitting there and I've got an hour and a half to watch TV, well, I'm skipping a lot of it.
yeah, yeah,
But I won't miss anything. You know what I mean? Like you can
yeah.
click
The
that
shows are
30
so
second
predictable;
button.
you can tell when they're going to commercial anyway.
Yep, exactly. So what's funny is they've been doing this gimmick the last 2 weeks of limited commercials. And so a match will start, and what was the one this week? It was AJ Styles and It was an AJ Styles match anyways. And I'm like, okay, this is going through a break. So I start fast forwarding and I keep fast forwarding. And then all of a sudden I see the finish and I'm like, what? And then I go back. It was like maybe like 8 minutes, but they didn't go to commercial. So it was like they threw me off there. But that hour, oh my God, it felt forever.
Like, well, that's an indictment of the product when they go 8 minutes and you're expecting a commercial.
Well, I was expecting a commercial after 4.
Right. That's an indictment of their product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I was expecting it to be like a 12-minute match with a 4-minute commercial is what I was expecting. Yeah. So I mean, that's not bad. I mean, AEW does the same thing, but the difference is you don't know exactly when the commercial's coming. You don't always know it's going through a commercial. Sometimes it shouldn't.
They do too much in picture sometimes.
Couple matches last week, the Wardlow and the Jade matches, would have been better if they were shorter. But that's in here and there. They got time to fill too, and those guys got to work.
Jade needs ring time.
She does a lot, and actually, it wasn't even her fault last week. It was the other girl that
I can't
Tony
was
so
impressed with
her. Signed. Yeah, they had to have signed her before. They had to have signed her before.
Yeah.
It was funny. Do you know who that was, right?
No, I just know that she was a Booker T student.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm watching this and she looked familiar, and then they say Booker T student, like freaking if you see a black woman wrestling on AEW or WWE, they're a Booker T student. Like it feels like every single one they say that. And then I'm like, she looks so familiar, and then even I think she even talked at one point maybe, and I'm like, she sounds familiar. And then I was doing the Dynamite show with Jeff. And he mentions, yeah, you do know her. And I'm like, well, AQA, I don't know that name. And he's like, Google it or whatever. Like, go to Cage Match. So then I do. It's Zeta Ramir from NXT.
Really?
Yeah. So that was actually her last match. Was she did a mini feud with Toni Storm where she like beat her. And then, the next week they just 50-50'd and had Tony beat her.
I think I might have only seen her once, honestly.
Oh, okay.
I fell off on NXT. I've heard the name many times.
Yeah.
But yeah,
she had like 6 matches. She had like 6 matches there.
That's another thing I completely fell off on was NXT, especially when they went to 2.0. I think last thing I saw was War Games.
It's getting better. Like last night was actually a pretty good show. They had one really bad match, but the other, like they had that was Braun Breaker and Santos Escobar in the main event. I love saying that. MSK and the Creed Brothers. Creed Brothers are great. Love watching them. And then Pete Dunne and Tony D'Angelo had a cage match, which was really good. And then what was the other one?
He was able to carry D'Angelo to a good match.
D'Angelo's really good.
Really? I mean, I heard he's only got a handful of matches. So
he does, and they've all been good. Like, so really? I mean, he's working with good guys. Like he had that one match with Roderick Strong. That obviously Roddy, but I mean, he's learning, and he's really good, and he plays his character really well. And then the other one was Cameron Grimes and Carmelo Hayes. And
I heard
Hayes is great. Like
I've seen him on the Independents when he was Christian Casanova. He's awesome.
Yeah, Josh Nason did an interview with him on the F4W site just before he got signed, and I listened to that, and I was like, "Oh, this guy's gonna be a star."
He would have fit easily in the other NXT.
Yeah, well, and he's perfect for this, and hopefully they don't call him up because I mean, as soon as they call him up, he's gonna die on the main roster. He's too small.
See, that's terrible that we feel this way.
I know, but it's true.
I went on an infamous rant a few years ago about Undisputed Era should have been called up after the WrestleMania in New York. This was they kept them in NXT for 2 more years and then broke them up and never brought them up. Unbelievable.
You know what? In retrospect, it was probably the right idea.
Yeah.
Because we got to see 2 more years of great matches.
Everything in retrospect, they probably would have screwed them up then.
Yeah.
But at the time, I really wanted it. I thought maybe they could actually, bring a spark to the main roster, but
here's what I look at though. What I made the comment. Who is it about? Oh, Chad Gable. So he's been awesome on Raw lately.
Yeah.
And he's getting pushed. He's a tag team champion right now. And I made the comment, and I think a lot of people disagree with this, but hear me out. I say he's in the perfect place because he's getting showcased every week. He's wrestling every week. He's having good matches every week. If he went to AEW, I guarantee he'll have better matches. But we probably see him once a month, if that, on TV. He probably isn't going to be winning a lot. So I'm getting to see Chad Gable, who I really like, a lot more because he's in WWE than if he went to AEW. Unless you're watching Dynamite and Dark and all the YouTube shows and everything, like they've signed so many guys. Kyle O'Reilly got signed in, what was it, the beginning of December, and we've seen him once.
Twice.
He's wrestled once. Look it up. He wrestled that 8-man tag with Bobby Fish and Adam Cole and can't remember, maybe it was a 10-man.
There was also a trios match, I thought. There was one at Daly's place.
I'm almost positive because I looked this up.
There was one at Daly's place, and then there was one at Rampage, I thought.
Okay. I know Bobby Fish has wrestled a bunch. Either way, whether it's once or twice, it's not.
Your point stands, I understand.
He would have been on NXT every week.
Yeah.
And probably wrestling, every other week. So
now I do agree with you about Chad Gable, but only because of the last month or 6 weeks or so.
Right.
Because prior to that, we haven't seen him in years.
Well, we see him, but he's a joke.
Yeah, and this has rehabilitated him greatly, and working with Orton and Riddle has shown him. He's gotten a lot of TV time. He's working with good guys. He's working with a crowd that actually knows who he is now.
Yeah, and I think Vince likes him.
Yeah, and once you get Vince, you get some more time, and you get
I look at him, and they had him in a Get Up a couple weeks ago. I think it was when they're doing the scooter race, and I looked at him and it's like, that's Kurt Angle. Like he's basically doing the Kurt Angle gimmick from 20 years ago.
I mean, the funny thing is, we've been all saying that he's Kurt Angle in the ring.
Yeah, now he's Kurt Angle outside
forever. Yeah, and all he needed was the entertainment side. Now he's got that. So
yeah, and he's got Otis, who's a perfect partner.
Well, Otis was more over 2 years ago. That's
he was, story. But he's getting over now. And it's kind of funny because there's little aspects of his character that are kind of creeping back. Like they had the Quiz Bowl a couple weeks ago and Hamlet, and he's like, Ham. And it's like, so like old Otis is in there, and he's going to come out at some point. So that's kind of fun. I don't know if they have that kind of depth, in their storytelling. If it was AEW, I would totally think, oh yeah, it's coming. But who knows with them? They could drop it next week.
Yeah.
He could just all of a sudden show up on NXT and be drooling over Mandy Rose and be George the Animal Steel or something. That'd be funny, actually. Hopefully, Bruce Pritchard doesn't listen to this.
It would be nice to revisit the two of them now, considering how different they are. Just because I love her new look, and he's completely different than what he was. So
Dolph Ziggler was on NXT last night, and he was wearing a Toxic Attraction T-shirt, and he showed up at Mandy's match. So I love that storyline continuity.
That's good.
Yeah, he's trolling. He's trolling for rats at the PC. I made that comment in the Facebook thing. So you know what? We went over our 30 minutes here, so I don't know. I feel like we just got started, but maybe.
Oh yeah, I'm able to go longer if you want.
Well, you know what? Let's do like another 5.
Sure.
I got work to do too, as I'm sure you do.
Nobody's gonna watch this one because nobody knows who I am.
Hey, you know what? Everyone in the Fight Game group will watch. Sometimes these ones where like nobody knows who they are like the highest viewed ones, and then I get like Lance Storm, and I think I had like 30 views or something, and it's because like it all depends on whether or not the guy retweets it. Like Brian Alvarez retweets it, I get 300 views. But the second biggest one I've had was Oliver Kopp, and
really?
But my sister was on it, and she was in the thumbnail, so that might have something to do with it. Because every other one is 2 guys.
Yeah. So well, if I retweet it, it's not gonna do anything. I'm just talking to the void on Twitter.
How many?
Not many.
Oh.
I got my Twitter.
Well, because your old Twitter, you lost your Twitter.
Well, even my old Twitter, I didn't have that many followers.
Okay, so tell me about that. What happened with your Twitter there?
It was just the weirdest thing. So it was All Out weekend. I was in Chicago, and Corey Lee. He sends me a message. He sends me a text saying, "Hey, what's going on with your Twitter account?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" I don't know. I was just on it. Like, I literally had checked it. I went to bed. And I woke up to him telling me something's wrong, and I looked at it, and it's nothing but Arabic messages were being sent out, and then I tried to report it, and I tried to get it back, and Twitter was like, "We can't prove it's not you." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And I've had the same account for years and years and years, and then eventually it started like spamming out like send me money kind of thing, so I had to basically tell everybody like, "Hey, I gotta block this and create a new one." For the most part, I mean, I still lurk
Yeah.
all the time. I don't really tweet that often because Twitter's a cesspool of toxicity, and
Yeah.
reading it is enough. I don't like to participate in it. So.
I go on Twitter to promote, and I go on Twitter to basically check my mentions. The odd time I'll make a comment, but I will just shut off and I'll only look at my mentions, and I'm only getting mentioned by people that I want to be mentioned by. So if it's somebody that is an idiot, I just mute them so I don't see the mentions.
Yeah.
So I'm not, and I don't get a ton of mentions anyways. Like I might, the odd time I say something clever, and Dave Meltzer will retweet it or something, and then all of a sudden my mentions blow up. But
I saw your tweet on UFC this weekend.
Oh, I'm on UFC all the time. Like almost every week. Yeah, that's cool. Like that's fun when I see it. Ryan is kind of annoyed by it, not by me, by his own. Like, because he's on there too all the time.
Yes,
and
yeah,
and I know him enough. When I didn't know him as well, he would say he was annoyed, and I was like, yeah, whatever. You're just humble bragging or whatever. But he actually is annoyed. He would rather his tweets weren't on there because he gets like hate tweets. He's like, like, I don't get it. Like, oh. And then they'll be like, it's funny, if you Google Ryan Frederick UFC, like one of the first things that comes up is who is Ryan Frederick and stuff. And then, and then you go on, it's like a Reddit thread, and someone says, like, he's like a UFC like reporter, like just because you haven't heard of him doesn't mean he's not. He freaking writes for the Observer, like me. Who is Paul Fontaine? Like, go for it. I don't have any clue why they're putting my tweets on the board. I don't even cover UFC anymore.
Hey, you get mentioned on podcasts all the time.
I do. But I mean, I'm not, like, I have friends, but I haven't, that are kind of important, but I'm not, so, but it's cool.
You're a well-connected individual.
True. Yeah.
I like to think that I'm connected to connected individuals.
Well, you are actually more so, like, you're way more low key though. You're not, like, if you had a podcast
from it.
Yeah, like if you had a
so
podcast,
low-key, I'm removed from it.
Right. But I mean, you have text numbers of like important people and stuff, and you could be less removed if you wanted to be, but you've chosen to be. So, and I probably should. And there are times when I feel like, maybe I want to, but this show, actually, I love doing this show because there's no pressure. Like, it's all me. So if, and I'm talking to people I want to talk to, and it's friends, it's, some famous people, but I throw out, I cast, and if somebody, if someone takes the bait, okay, I'm going to book a show. I'm going to do a show with Cole Cabana. That's really cool. But, I much more enjoy these conversations because really, like, I figured out about 5 episodes into this, like, all I'm doing really is having an excuse to like have a video call with one of my friends, and we're just putting it on YouTube. So, like the conversations with you and John LaRocca and Garrett and, Larry Sternshine, David Lovell, like, these are my friends, and I love talking to them. And I haven't talked to you one-on-one probably since Dallas, because I think, like, in Vegas, I was kind of running around a lot, and you were with your wife, and I was with my sister, and I was babysitting her. And, so I didn't really have a lot of time to talk to you one-on-one. And, so I really wanted to do this, and man, like, I wanted so bad. Like, I wanted to go to your like wedding so bad, and I just, like, I couldn't, so.
I appreciate it. Hey, I want to publicly thank you, because, hey, listen, people don't know about this, and this still blows my mind because I still don't know how you pulled this off, folks.
It's nothing.
This man bought a bottle of champagne and had it delivered to my honeymoon suite in Tahiti. I don't even know how you found my room.
I'm a cyber stalker.
Halfway across the world, we get a knock on the door.
Dude's putting me over for being a stalker.
No, it's the kindness of it all. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I felt so bad for missing getting a present to your actual wedding. Like, the actual attending the wedding, it wasn't going to happen. Like, I really wanted to, but it couldn't. I'd done too much travel that year, and to go away even for like 3 days or 2 days was just not going to happen. I think you got married in the summer, right?
Well, no, it was October.
Okay. So yeah. So I think that was the year we might have done an August convention. So I just gone to Vegas in August, and I think I was planning another trip in like January or something. So was it 2018 or 19?
2016.
6. Oh yeah. So definitely. Yeah. 16.
We saw you in Dallas, and then we saw you in Vegas. And then
right. Yeah. So oh God, I did so many trips that year.
Yeah.
I think I went to a UFC also later that year, so it just couldn't happen. So then it was like, okay, well, I'll get them a present. They're registered and everything, and then I just missed it, and it's like, oh shit, well, I got to do something. So it wasn't as hard as you'd think. It took me about 2 hours of leg work and
That's
like,
impressive.
yeah, don't
2
worry
hours
about
of
it.
legwork. Look at that.
Yeah, and you know what? You sent me a video of you guys opening it. Like that made it all worthwhile.
Oh, I
It
was
was almost like
plastered.
I was there. Yeah. Oh, awesome.
I
Awesome.
was completely plastered for
Yeah.
that video.
There's so many like people that, like I remember when Vinny and Bridget got married, like I wanted to go to that one. And it's just like there's only so many trips you can take. But one thing that I realized with this pandemic is, man, like now if I have a chance to do something like that, I might just have to do it, because you never know, like when you would get another chance to do something like that. So if I do, like if I got invited to something and it was like, what, I could do it, but yeah, I just really don't want to, it's like, no, you know what, you got to do it. Because I had this when I had Dave on the show, we mentioned, because I passed through his town and it was just, he was too busy and everything. And then it's like, but then like 2 years later, it's like you would want to connect with people and you can't. So, but this is nice. I mean, it's like
the last time we were all in Vegas, I barely got a chance to see Garrett.
Right.
And this past time in Chicago, I went out of my way to hang out with him and a couple other guys, and we went to Portillo's and had some hot dogs. And
I still haven't had a proper hangout with Garrett like ever. Because I mean, the last time I saw him in person, we didn't really know each other. We've really gotten to know each other in the last probably 3 years. And really in the pandemic, like, and me, doing stuff for Fight Game and stuff, like I talk to him, message. I don't actually physically talk to him that often, but I message him probably more than just about anybody.
It's crazy. I love to put that guy over because he deserves it. And,
I don't know how he does it. Like all the stuff he does, and with his job and his family, and doing the Observer show and We're Live Pal and all this stuff. He just sent me a message.
I was glad. I'm just glad I got to meet him before he got so busy.
Yeah, me too. And I don't know, like, again, like he does stuff like for instance, like I did this interview that I referenced with Joe Aiello, which if you get a chance, listen to it. He tells some really awesome stories. He used to work for WWE. And so he had the story about how he actually got into WWE is really cool. And I'd never heard it. And I've known him for 30 years. But I hadn't really had a conversation like this with him, like probably ever. But anyways, so because it was so wrestling related, I suggested to Garrett that we put it on Fight Game Media. And then so I sent it to him yesterday, and I was expecting it to go up last night. But I mean, with all the stuff that was going on yesterday with Cody, and he did the show with Andrew, and he did a show with Dave. And it's like I woke up this morning and it's not up. And it's like, oh, I guess Garrett got busy or whatever. And then I didn't even know he had done the show with Gabe. So I messaged him and I was like, hey, I just want to make sure you got the file. Like, I'm not trying to put pressure on you. I know how busy you are and everything. And he's like, he apologizes. And he said, no, I'll try to get it up today. And it's like, dude, like, I know how busy you are. Don't, I appreciate that you even answer me, so yeah, it's cool. So how's Inez?
Oh, she's great.
Yeah.
My kids are a handful. Yeah. So she's been working from home since this whole thing started, and she actually just got told return to office will be next month.
Oh,
and
wow.
So once that happens, it's up to me to take care of both kids and get them to school in the morning, which is going to make my mornings hell.
Well, I get Emily off to school every morning. That's just a non-starter because my wife leaves the house at 7 when she's working. But for me, like, I'm working from home, and it looks like it's gonna be permanent. I just filled out the paperwork to have the remote workplace agreement. So it's like I go in one day a week to the office, and that's Mondays, and then the rest of the week I'm at home, and it's awesome.
Now, why do you have to go in that one day?
There's things that you need to do, like printing and stuff. To be honest, though, the reason I go in one day a week is because we have a house cleaner that comes in on Mondays. If it wasn't for that, I would probably not go in at all. Except I mean, when you say why do you have to, there was a point where they were saying they wanted everyone in 2 days a week, and I'm like, this was during the pandemic, like right in the middle of it, and I was like, why? And then my boss is like, well, the social aspect, and no. Tell me for the job. Why do we need to be here? Well, for some people, they need to. I don't. Why do I need to be here too? And she couldn't answer me.
Yeah.
So now and then, it wasn't just me, but there's a lot of people. It's like, this is working. Why change it?
Yeah.
And for me, like, my boss contacts me, like, I mean, I got my phone right here. So even if I, was to get a message, like right now I'm actually on, technically I'm on holidays, but if I got a text, I'm dealing with it. If I get an email that's important, I'm dealing with it. And I'm available, and they don't know if I'm at the office or at work. I mean, except for my background.
Yeah.
Like, and everybody loves, like, when we do Zoom meetings, mine's the favorite background. Everyone else has, like, just, their cat on a couch in the background or something, and they love my stuff. So
yeah, for the first I think 15 or 16 weeks that we were working from home, nobody knew it was going to be that long, obviously.
right.
So we started doing Zoom meetings as a team, my little team of agents here, and I would wear a different lucha mask every week.
Oh, I remember you posting that stuff. Yeah.
I did it every week for about 16 or 17 weeks, and finally they were like, "How many do you have?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't expect to run out. I figured at some point we'd be back in the office." But yeah.
So you had to recycle them after a while.
Yeah. Well, I stopped doing it after a while because I ended up going back to the office.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap this up then, and we'll do this again. I'll get a hold of you in a few months, and we'll catch up. And maybe next time I'll ask you about your time at EWR, because that actually really interests me, and we've never really talked about it. So, give a little teaser for next time.
Sure, it's not a lot to say, but I'll gladly talk about it.
And then we'll talk about whatever's going on at that time in our lives. So
cool.
And all right. So for Damien, I've been Grampa Dez, and this has been Cup of Joe.